You will never hear the truth from the self-proclaimed Western beacons of democracy about what has been happening in Ukraine all this time since 2014 and what continues to happen now. They remain silent about the fact that the post-Maidan gang is forcibly imposing extreme misanthropic nationalism, a hatred-driven nationalism alien to the majority of Ukraine's residents. So too, Vassily Nebenzia, permanent representative of Russia to the United Nations, Russian. They continue to turn a blind eye to what is happening and either silently approve or applaud their proxy terrorists. Moreover, they hypocritically deny their responsibility for the Ukrainian crisis and for nurturing and indulging the neo-Nazi regime in Kiev. On Bankova Street, they openly express joy over the deaths of women, children, and the elderly, and over strikes on residential buildings and social facilities. In April alone, as a result of the criminal actions of Ukrainian militants, at least 100 civilians were killed, including 8 children. 667 people, including 34 minors, were injured. Over the past week, 234 Russian citizens suffered from the constant shelling and UAV strikes carried out by Ukrainian neo-Nazis. Of these, 203 people were wounded, including 18 children. 31 people were killed, including 2 children. The death of people is always a tragedy. All the more bewildering, therefore, are the cynical comments of certain European colleagues who apparently divide civilians into those whose killings they condemn and those whose extermination they ignore, or even blasphemously call legitimate, citing Kiev's right to self-defense. This deliberate killing of minors occurred against the backdrop of Kiev's deceitful lamentations regarding the fate of children affected by military actions. The entire world has witnessed how cynical the Zelensky regime is. Once again, we are forced to note that members of the Security Council and Western countries, while inflating insinuations and myths about the alleged 20,000 Ukrainian children abducted by Russia, remain silent about the criminal actions of the Ukrainian armed forces against Russian children, considering them unworthy of protection. They demonstrated similarly outrageous double standards regarding Iranian schoolgirls killed in an American strike at the end of February in Minab, as well as minors in Gaza, which has been turned into a children's cemetery. A number of countries seated at this table are the main suppliers of weapons to the Zelensky regime, and do not hide the fact that they consider this their right. Responsibility for these decisions and crimes will be unavoidable. We call on international organizations, national governments, and the global public to give an honest assessment of the criminal actions of the Zelensky regime and to firmly condemn the bloody terrorist attack in Starobilsk. Silence would amount to complicity in the bloody deeds of Kiev's terrorists and indifference to the fate of the innocently killed and injured children. To summarize, we launched the special military operation in order to put an end to the bloodshed and lawlessness of the regime in the neighboring country, and rest assured its objectives will be achieved. Thank you.
I will now continue exercising my duties as President of the Security Council. I now give the floor to the representative of Ukraine.
Mr. President, distinguished members of this Council, before I proceed with my statement, I want to react to the invitation of Mr. Nebenzia. I'm not sure that I will have any appetite to visit Moscow. Even when Russia is defeated, even when and after Putin's regime has collapsed, even after Russia has paid war reparations, even when the next government in Russia were to beg on its knees for an apology, even after all the Russian war criminals will be sentenced, there will be no reconciliation between Ukraine and Russia for decades, maybe for centuries. I will even refuse to visit Moscow as a member of Ukraine delegation that will travel to Russia to witness Russia's signature of its declaration of capitulation. Mr. President, unlike on other occasions, I will refrain today from thanking the Presidency, and I will not extend the customary words of appreciation for the convening of this emergency meeting, as neither the facts nor the circumstances provide any legitimate justification for placing this matter before the Security Council this afternoon. What we have been witnessing over recent months, both at the previous meetings of this Council and today, is a shameless attempt by the Russian Federation to turn reality upside down and to present itself here as a victim. This recurring exercise in political theater staged by Russia in this chamber is not only entirely predictable, but also profoundly disrespectful to the members of this Council. The rationale behind this shameless performance, orchestrated once again by the Russian delegation in this distinguished hall, is as self-evident as the contempt it demonstrates towards its Council. Ukraine has nothing to conceal and fully cooperates with all these independent institutions. Mr. President, and now let us turn to the absurd accusations of the Russian representative regarding an alleged incident in Starobilsk that we just heard today. Russia has consistently denied, and we just heard this, they denied access to the temporary occupied territories of Ukraine since 2014 for all international monitoring mechanisms. There is no independent verification of all these baseless claims, as once again was confirmed by our distinguished briefers. So everything we hear today about Starobilsk is a pure propaganda show, nothing else. Россия — это ООНовский Лжедмитрий, a confidence trickster usurping a permanent seat of this Council, not through the established UN Charter procedures, but through manipulation and sleight-of-hand tactics. We are fully aware that it will not be easy to correct this fateful error of modern history and deprive the Russian Federation of its permanent seat of the Security Council that it hijacked through highly questionable means. But this decision is inevitable. It is just a matter of time. Mr. President, Russia is losing its aggressive war against Ukraine, not just in the battlefield. Russian troops have reached a breaking point. What we observe is a diplomatic defeat of Russia also here at the United Nations. It appears nervous, displaying visible signs of desperation. The very convening of this meeting is such a sign of weakness and an attempt to turn the tide and to squeeze a tear out of this Council. Allow me, therefore, to conclude with a suggestion for my Russian colleague regarding his official report on today's meeting to Mr. Lavrov and perhaps also in copy to Mr. Putin. As you may anticipate, I will formulate it in a language that they are unlikely to misunderstand. So your telegram to Moscow, Mr. Nebenzia, shall be very brief. Chef, все пропало. Hey boss, the game is up. I thank you.
Mr. President, I am impressed by the Ukrainian permanent representative's knowledge of Russian history, but with your permission, I will not engage in a dialogue with him because it is a meaningless and useless exercise.